دكتورة مروة وأخت لومة. ممكن بس تجربون الصوت والفيديو.
هذا الفيديو تسمعوني؟
تمام، الصوت واضح.
سلام.
والsharing option is also active. Thank you very much.
ممتاز. وعليكم السلام دكتورة، حالك؟
الحمد لله بخير، صوتي واضح؟
واضح، نعم.
تمام.
يعطيكم العافية.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Dubai for Best Practices Knowledge Sharing webinar. My name is Dr. Marwa Shalwani, a practitioner at Dubai Academic Health Corporation, and proudly a participant in Dubai for Best Practices program as a team member within Behavioral Sciences for the Government Effectiveness team. In today's session, we are hosting 4 amazing speakers who will share and highlight the best practices among 4 significant and prioritized topics in the government of Dubai: the data management and decision making, the joint digital services, building government capabilities for future jobs, and the behavioral science for government effectiveness. Before we get started, if we have any questions, you can type them in the chat box and we will address all your questions after each speaker's topic. And now I would like to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Luma Bouraisley. She is from Dubai Culture and a team member of the Data Management and Decision Making Group. Ms. Luma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction and good morning, everyone. Today, I will take you through our project, Data Management and Decision Making, or I'm going to be calling it DM and DM for ease. Basically, the kind of the summary of the efforts during the last 7 months, where we have exercised and practiced a very effective tool, which is the trade tool. We went through different phases in terms of reference, review, acquire, deploy, and evaluate. However, today we will be focusing primarily on 2 of those stages, which is the acquire and deploy methodology. Before I start, I'd like to introduce you to the team behind this effort. And we're a team representing various entities within the Dubai government. It's been a very enlightening journey, I have to say. So please feel free to ask any questions as we go along, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Also, members of the team are also present so they can engage as well. So DM and DM model was based on 4 main pillars. These pillars, we used different tools to come up with the pillars. We used the fishbone model. We used the SWOT analysis model. We also used a lot of research methodology, be it desktop, be it face-to-face, or sometimes visiting an entity within the country and outside the country. And those pillars we have verified with the various stakeholders that we engaged with throughout the project. These are the data strategy and governance, capabilities based on culture and skills, innovation and technology advancement, and last but not least, data foresight and economy. We also have identified sub-pillars under each of those pillars. So, for example, under data strategy and governance, we've identified leadership strategy, projects and programs, policies and standards that are key important pillars for us to fulfill that main pillar. Under capabilities based on culture and skills, we've identified the importance of manpower and knowledge management within the government of Dubai. Under innovation and technology advancements, we've identified big data management and analysis, as well as machine learning and AI. Last but not least, we made sure that our work is also future-driven because we wanted Dubai to be future-ready. So we've also tackled the data foresight and economy from a research and development requirement perspective, interconnectivity, as well as data economy and monetization. Some of those pillars are foundation pillars, like data strategy, governance, as well as capabilities based on culture and skills. Some of them are evolution, such as data strategy, data foresight and economy, and some of them are actually hybrid, such as innovation and technology advancements. As a result of the exercise, after 7 months of research, we've come up with 7 best practices under data strategy and governance and 6 recommendations for Dubai. We've come up with 11 best practices and recommendations under capabilities, 6 best practices and 7 recommendations under innovation, technology, and advancements. Last but not least, we really researched some 24 best practices from all around the world and have proposed 8 recommendations for Dubai. out of this package, it's actually much more than that. We have a total of 40 best practices recommended for Dubai, but these are the key ones. We've also identified 8 hero projects, and you may ask what qualifies to be a hero project. We looked at those projects that we're proposing for Dubai government that are complex in nature, that have a high impact, that are futuristic in nature, that require resources and readiness for them to be implemented. And then we've also laid them down into 3 horizons. So some projects are fundamental for us to move to the second horizon projects, and these are the foundations for the Horizon 3 foresight projects. So you can see here, I'm sorry, it's an overwhelming slide, but we've put all the 40 recommendations in this slide and kind of created paths. Each path delivers on a certain priority. The labels here, you can see the mega projects labeled in green with a star, and we've reached a maturity state where we are ready to also pilot 3 of those projects, and we've selected one from each horizon with the right partner in place. Because of time, I've selected the 10 best practices and recommendations, which I'll take you through during the session. So I'm going to start with data strategy and governance, and under that we've looked at leadership strategy, which is a foundation. That's the starting point. We looked at this model, which is from New Zealand, which is the data governance framework. And what was special about this framework is that it provides kind of a holistic view of things. It's a model where it integrates the executive management and operation side of things, and also looks at the data stewardship, data culture, data maturity, data strategy, quality, and also data management point of view. That model was, we felt it's important for the public sector here in Dubai to look at and learn from. It was successfully implemented and with tangible results that we've looked at. The second best practice under leadership and strategy is basically a model that we looked at from the US called the Data Management Capability Assessment Model, which is more focused on the private sector. So while the first model was aimed at the public sector, the second one was practiced across various entities within the private sector. And similarly, it kind of gives you the 360 approach into that data implementation, starting from the foundation to the executional side, to the collaboration side of things, and finally to the application side of things. And we're recommending that Dubai adopts this kind of model, and we've actually given the recommendation a name and a brand as well, which is the Dubai Data Capability Model. We also looked at a piece of work done by World Bank. It's called the Data Council. It's a practice from the US. We really like this model because what it does is that it provides context on how to create an advisory data committee. And that data committee, basically, it's involving both data users and data producers, and it's like creating this combination between the two sides of the data story. So that council is responsible for 5 main things. Number 1, supporting the government data management capabilities. Secondly, coordinating among the staff that are involved within World Bank Group to address methodological issues and offer solutions. It also looks at the governance side of things and how to apply the governance within the model. Also, it simplifies and makes it easier to come up with decisions when we come to implement the data agenda. And last but not least, it directly supports the data collection and sharing activities. So in summary, this is kind of a visual interpretation of this model. And what we're recommending is that a council is initiated and activated in Dubai, and we're calling it the Dubai Data Council, which is actually also a combination of both data users and producers, and that dialogue we feel is very important. Under the same pillar of data strategy and governance, now we looked at the data security, privacy, and business continuity, which is again a foundation. And we looked at best practice in New Zealand called the ICT Risk Management guidance. Basically, what the government of New Zealand does is that it provides this website or the platform, and that platform serves as a guidance. It's an access tool for entities to basically use and make sure that the risk element is covered. It's built based on an ISO international guideline, and also it provides guidance not only in the risk governance, assessment, and treatment, but also it monitors and reports, it communicates and gives consultation, as well as it engages with the system assurance side of things. So we're looking at, this is just an example how a certain risk is mitigated, taking it from a very severe risk with almost certain kind of likelihood to a green side of things where it's insignificant also and like rare in terms of likelihood. We're recommending Dubai ICT risk management model to be implemented, inspired from that model. Moving on, we were looking at the competitiveness. How do we put Dubai on the map when it comes to data management and decision making? And this is very important for Dubai. And we wanted to make sure that we're on par with other smart cities and how they're behaving. So we looked at three models. Two of them are in the US, the Data Warehouse Institute, or what it's called TDWI, as well as the data.org. Both of them are US-based. Actually, the Data Warehousing Institute analytical model has been practiced for almost 25 years, more than 2 decades. And we went through this during one of our stakeholder engagement, which is a telco here in Dubai. They're using it efficiently and effectively. We also, during the journey, the 7-month journey, last month, we were aware that Digital Dubai were about to launch. They actually launched it last month, which is the data maturity framework. So we wanted to provide something which takes Dubai to the next level. So while all those parameters look at how mature data is, how it is implemented within the public and private sector, and we looked at how each model works, we've actually tested those models. For example, TDWI is very interesting because you first identify the sector that you come from, you enter the different parameters, and it's based on 5 key parameters, and instantly it gives you the result. Not only your result, but it gives you your result vis-a-vis other players within the same industry worldwide. So you see the actual score and the score vis-a-vis other players around the world. The data.org model is a simpler version of that. It looks at purpose, practice, and people. And similarly, it gives you the feedback. This is actually the result of an exercise that we have done as a team. And it gives you kind of a dashboard view of the result. The data maturity framework is about to be implemented within Dubai. And again, it gives you the same kind of result in terms of giving you where do you stand in terms of maturity of implementing data maturity, or how mature you are in data management. So our recommendation is to look in the far future, how do you use data to create value? The value creation using different technology from data. So, okay, we are mature. What is the next level? The next level is to provide value services, to create automated decisions, and how you use technologies like AI, like VR, etc., like Web3, to create a happier community, to add value to the community, and to add value to the quality of life of the citizens here in Dubai. So that was the model that we were proposing, and we're calling it GRID because several parties will have to play a role into making the value creation happen. So you have the data, but then you need that data to kind of feed into one pool to create value for the community. Now we move to the capabilities based on culture and skills, and we looked at the manpower side of things, which is another foundation, because manpower is a key fundamental requirement or pillar for that model to work. And we went through a Gartner study. They have something they call talent neuron, and what they did is that they looked at the lenses using external labor market insights. So with that model, they were looking at main areas such as how to secure and leverage external labor market data to build future-focused talent acquisition strategy. As you all know, brain drain is a key thing. We want to make sure that we acquire and maintain the talent, as well as the market is producing different talent, which is catering for the future today and future requirements of DM and DM. So that model was really useful in terms of how to draw the right conclusions from a data collection point of view, and also how to turn conclusions into actionable strategies when it comes to driving business initiatives. So Gartner suggests 9 action steps broken into 3 major components, as you can see. Collecting labor market data, interpreting labor market data, and last but not least, influencing the hiring of managers specialized in certain fields to make that ecosystem work. And we're also recommending that we use the same analysis framework and adopt it so that we are future ready. Capgemini also applies the same methodology where the data is at the heart of the ecosystem of people, process, and technology. With the science of data analytics becoming more sophisticated, the decision-making accordingly has to evolve in a way where it's compatible with this sophistication and complexity. That model basically is, at the moment, in the past, leadership was based on making decisions based on data. What we're trying to do is that as much as possible to come up with kind of automated decision making instead of leadership making the decision. This makes it agile, as well as it removes the kind of the personal view of things. When we move to the next best practice, and this is a really interesting best practice from Estonia. Estonia is a very prominent smart city, and we've put that best practice under innovation and technology advancement because X-Road has been piloted in 1995, and then it's been really tested and implemented for more than a decade right now, and it's giving a lot of fruits. So if you remember in the previous slide, we were saying we need to automate as much as possible the decision making to create value. X-Road is exactly that. So what it does is that all the data is kind of coming together in a grid at a centralized framework. So we always give the example of a newborn, for example. If a baby is born at the hospital, once the hospital puts that detail into the system, various players start actually automatically creating value for the parents. So you have the birth certificate issued, the health insurance done with the referencing, all the paperwork is done in a way where there is efficiency, less CO2 emission, because the parents don't have to go from one place to another to finalize all the regulation. Everything is automatically done because different partners or different data points are talking to each other and automatically creating the value for the citizen. We're recommending something similar, and we're calling it, and that's one of our mega projects, we're calling it eDXB. And we're recommending that Dubai becomes the pilot of this project. And here you can look at various entities sharing their data in a consolidated data pool to create value for various users, be it citizen or civil servants. So the pilot is eDXB, but it can be also expanded to different emirates in the UAE, different emirates within the UAE until we reach EUAE, and then maybe this can be cascaded throughout the Middle East region. The next best practice, and that's another mega project, is under the data foresight and economy, and we wanted to talk about data economy and monetization evolution. This is an evolution kind of pillar, more on the future foresight things. We've actually personally visited Creative Informatics in Edinburgh, Scotland, as well as the School of Design and Informatics. This is an online meeting with Abertay University. And from there, we came to know about a solution which I'll take you through in a minute. So what this ecosystem does for Creative Informatics, which is part of University of Edinburgh, as well as the School of Design and Informatics, is that they engage the students using data. The students and creatives come up with creative solutions, primarily in the gaming sector, as well as other creative solutions. Today, gaming is not only entertainment. Gamification is providing solutions to various sectors, be it health, be it education, be it industry. This space has really evolved, specifically also in Edinburgh and primarily also in Dundee, where Abertay University is. Abertay, by the way, Abertay University is the first and only university that graduates game developers, and game developers for the sake of creating solutions for various industries based on data and data analysis. So we wanted to create a similar ecosystem, and that's one way of tackling the challenge of manpower. The student is, during his study, engaged in analyzing data and creating solutions, and they go to the market ready with what the basic needs are and how they can make a difference. So you may ask, how does the monetization work? And we've asked that question also to our stakeholder who have shared with us this tool. I want to show you this tool, if you allow me. Okay. So Microsoft, hand in hand with Forrester, came up with a live calculator. I'm going to show you how it works. Let's suppose we take education, for example. So you just enter how many employees, how many hours. You just put the input, and it automatically gives you how much is the estimated in 3 years net present value, and how much saving or return on investment you're doing by implementing AI solutions. So the benefits per category, and then you can also download kind of a full result report on total cost and benefits. It's a very useful tool actually to be used by both the private sector as well as the government. And you can download this as well in PDF format. It gives you that great level of detail. I just wanted to share it with you because it's an available tool that anyone can actually use. So the merit of implementing this model is not only to tackle the manpower side of things, the future-driven solutions, as well as the impact on economy, but if we implement it, it will have a ripple effect on the bigger nation. For example, recently you may have been following the Global Innovation Index results for 2022, where UAE's ranking has moved up from the 33rd to the 31st global. This is in comparison with 132 economies around the world. But what we've noticed is that we have weaknesses in terms of human capital and research. And if we implement this model, that element will be improved significantly. And also in terms of output, we have two weaknesses in terms of knowledge and technology outputs, meaning IPs coming out of the UAE, as well as creative outputs. So if we implement this model efficiently, we can actually have a ripple effect all along to the UAE. And both universities are very willing actually to have kind of a short-term presence to test the grounds and the appetite, and then maybe the government decides to have a permanent presence of those two universities. We can learn a lot from them, especially that University of Abertay is in Dundee. Both Dubai and Dundee are creative cities, UNESCO cities of design. We both got this title in 2017, and we're both renewing that title. So there's a lot of synergy between the two cities that we can leverage on. Last but not least, and I'm going to be opening the questions side of this session, is an intervention that we did with Accenture. I've actually visited their New York office back in September. Accenture have a whole floor, innovation floor in their offices. It's just state of the art, really. And they've come up with a model. These are two examples, the Carnival as well as Disney, where they use wearables to create customized experiences, whether you are in Carnival, which is a cruise, or in Disney World. And they've also exercised this actually in Expo 2020. And now we are kind of, we're ready. I mean, this is one of our mega projects and one of the projects that we're ready to pilot to take it to Dubai. How can we create a customized tourist experience? So imagine a family traveling to Dubai for the first time. Each member of the family will have a customized experience based on interest and based on things happening now, like at this moment. Again, this uses some of the solutions that we have gone through during this session, where we have a centralized data point. Of course, it's a complicated project, but it can well be executed in sprints. And we're calling it Dubai My Way. It's that personalization, it's that value creation, and how can we improve an industry which is really doing well, like tourism, and how can we take it to the next level? This exercise has never been implemented in anywhere around the world, and that's one of the recommendations that we're putting forward for Dubai. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Luma. Thank you. That was a quite informative and insightful presentation, and very nice best practices. So I would like to open the floor for our audience for their questions. So I have a question regarding the analytics-driven talent strategy from Gartner. By tackling the talents, I mean, in Dubai we are goal to be the global talent hub, Dubai. So what are the expected benefits from implementing this strategy?
Yes, thank you for that question. I mean, we're very blessed with a very high attractiveness of Dubai to attract talent, be it individuals or corporations. It's easy to establish a business. I mean, we've been looking at the numbers. There's an obvious growth perspective. But when it comes to data management, there are specialized domains that we're not even, in some cases, aware of, especially in areas where you're implementing data maturity into creating value. And these domains are changing by the day. That's why some of those best practices are really good tools for us to keep an eye on how the space is evolving and make sure we're manpower ready. And we not only attract, but equip talent from the local market and preserve them and keep them in Dubai. So the two best practice, I mean, there's a lot much more into that, and a lot of best, I've only selected two, but I'm more than happy to share any insights if there is any specific requirement for knowledge after this session, inshallah.
Yeah, it's quite important. I think it will be really essential, especially in the talent acquisition area. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, going to the brand that you have created with your team, Dubai My Way, you've said like it was never implemented before, but it will really reshape the tourism field. Can you talk more about it, and what was the inspiration, and what is the expected benefit from implementing that?
To be honest, this was a journey. We were thinking on our feet. MashaAllah, I have to say, Dubai, the pace is really fast. So
Yes.
Some of the recommendations by the middle of the 7 months, we already found that it's about to be launched. So we had to go to the next level and kind of look at the future foresight innovative kind of recommendation here. To be honest with you, we were, as I mentioned to you, we were thinking on our feet, and that particular recommendation, we bumped into it, to be honest. In some aspect, we chose survey to be the right avenue, but in other aspect, we chose face-to-face to be the avenue. And those face-to-face meetings resulted into spaces that we would have never acquired if we used the traditional survey methodology where people answer questions. And that's exactly what happened with Accenture, Abertay University, University of Edinburgh, and also Creative Informatics. Those sessions of meetings, online meetings, follow-ups, and emails opened our scope of knowledge into possibilities. So we're looking at where the trends are going, and then we're looking at Dubai, where we are today, and the possibility. So if you have a strength like tourism, it's really working well, but how can we take it to the next level? So this is where we sat with the partner. It's not our mandate to go to the deployment side of things, but the team was really passionate about this project, and we sat with the partner, which is Accenture. Accenture is one of the leading companies worldwide. I mean, not only did I personally visit their New York office, of course, they have offices around the world, but they're the main solution provider for the Pentagon, and the Pentagon technology used given by Accenture are things that you cannot imagine even. It's just things that are beyond the imagination. So that we thought they're the really right partners to exercise this on a city level. And that kind of personalization is where the future is and where the value is. So that's kind of the thought process that took us to Dubai My Way.
Yeah, mashallah. And I can see even your passion, your team passion towards the topic. We can see that from your presentation. Excellent work. We have one more question regarding the mega data and anticipating opportunities and challenges. What are the best models that will fit the city of Dubai?
So Dubai is a smart city for sure. We have a mature infrastructure, mature IT infrastructure with 5G, with IoT. I mean, we're already in that space. However, I mean, I don't know if it's my place or not, but we haven't reached a point where we're creating value from different entities sharing their data. So there's a discrepancy in the form of data among government entities, and then there is no one pool which is actually taking this data source and creating value. That we haven't established in a visible way where people can benefit, and it's a great contributor to the quality of life within Dubai if it's implemented. That's one key thing that we feel is an avenue for Dubai to detail. I'm sure there is work or thoughts or projects behind the scenes, but we felt strongly about this avenue as a way forward.
That's quite interesting. And one more question regarding the Data Council. What are the components to have the Data Council implementation?
That's a really good question, Dr. Marwa. And I mean, it's unfair to summarize 10 slides and 10 proposals because there's a huge document behind it. But some of the recommendations, it cannot sit with an entity. There has to be a council of various entities plus the sector plus expertise to make sure that project comes to light in the right way. So actually when it comes to ownership, some of our recommendations, we really recommend establishing this kind of council. It's a very healthy practice, and we can learn about this even more from leading countries that exercise that. So we can start where they've ended rather than started where they have started in that space.
So we have one more, I think it's a consideration or a question. If the data will be controlled or informed or driven the smart city, what is your recommendation? I mean, in some slides, it was data-driven and then data analytics or data-informed. What will be your recommendation?
I mean, the foundation of a smart city is the right way of using and implementing data, making decisions based on data. That goes without saying. It's it goes without saying. This is definitely a way. But what was the exact query exactly? No.
if it will be, the data will be controlled by Smart Dubai, or we are recommending to have an entity to own it?
We're recommending, of course, it goes without saying that Smart Dubai owns it for sure. And they're the custodian for data. Yes, of course, data should be controlled by the entity which is يعني منوطة بهالموضوع هذا.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you, Ms. Luma. I think we are running out of time for the questions. So thank you so much once again. Unfortunately, that was a really nice time with you. Thank you so much for the quite informative presentation. And now I would like to introduce our second speaker. She is Ms. Hajar Al-Shamsi from General Directorate of Residency and Foreigners Affairs in Dubai, and she is the team leader of Joint Digital Services Group. Ms. Hajar, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Joint Digital Services team, I'm going to present the Joint Digital Services project. The PowerPoint is showing. Dr. Marwa, I'm asking.
It is showing, yes.
We believe joint digital services should be built and operated as a source of value for our local organizations. These services act as a foundation for business intelligence, analytics, and operational excellence that will, inshallah, leverage key process characteristics and educate technology to raise the quality of life within Dubai government. Before we start searching for the best practices, I guess I have to first. We formed a team, 10 candidates from different local entities, so that will allow the project stakeholders to involve with the project itself. So to make a long story short, our aim is to develop a best practice joint up the digital services model for the Dubai government. The scope of our projects includes governance and organization of joint services, evaluation and implementation, aligning to global standards, technology platforms, service design, and engaging with customers. We've selected 12 key stakeholders. Most of them are governmental entities, 10 of them to monitor, keep informed. We are talking about silo projects within the organization of GDRFA, Dubai Municipality, DIWA, Dubai Airports, and 2 from our stakeholders to manage closely the projects that were sponsored by Dubai Model Center and Dubai Digital Authority. We identified some of the risks before starting the projects, and the most effective one was like communication with the stakeholders, but with the DGEP support, we were able to communicate with them, and we were able to discuss and review the project and then deliver the best practices. There is like some of the key performance indicators we reviewed to ensure that the outcomes of our project will be beneficial for the Dubai government. Some of them are increasing percentage of Dubai government customer happiness and the percentage of the digital adoption for the joint digital services platform, increasing percentage of transactions completed digitally end-to-end, improving user interface satisfaction, protecting users' data privacy, reduction of carbon footprint from decreasing customer visits, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness for the service delivery, enabling better users' information protection and enhanced security, raising quality of services percentage within the Dubai government, increasing number of services based on the advanced technology platforms such as AI and blockchain, and achieving Dubai paperless strategy. The team organized 9 brainstorming sessions that engaged some stakeholders. The session was held to explore challenges and opportunities within project progress and data. There is like a Dubai Model Center session to review current carried on project within the government of Dubai, and also another session held by Dubai Data to introduce the Data Maturity Index framework, and also other meetings carried out with Dubai Customs, Dubai Airports, GDRFA, and Dubai Aviation Engineering projects. The key findings we found from the review stage is a need for a guidance model to assess the current joint digital services within the government of Dubai, and the existence of Central Authority of Digital Dubai and Dubai Model Center encouraged digitalization and sharing services through the unified channels such as Dubai Now and Invest in Dubai. But there is like an absence of self-assessment tool to measure the digital services, where only like a minor or only 4 digital shared services were evaluated by Dubai Model Center, and not all of the services are eligible to people of determination standard. During the acquire stage, as I mentioned, we attended 2 workshops. Also, 10 best practices partners have been selected, and more than 50 plus desktop research with the help of COER and DGEPT were carried within the project. For the benchmarking partner selection criteria, we've set the criteria to benchmark with international and local organizations, such as the entity has to have a platform for the joint digital services. The organization have to have a high customer happiness level, a high joint digital services adoption level, advanced digital transformation and automation strategy, an advanced customer journey, an agile organizational structure that will allow deploying the joint digital services and joint digital services tools and systems. So we were able to identify 9 best practices or an improvement ideas that were approved by the project sponsor. I will start by the joint digital services model. It is an assessment tool to assess the maturity of existence projects carried out by Dubai Model Center and Dubai Digital Authority. Number 1, or the main driver for this model, is centralization. All government services should be carried out within one platform. Then service integration, when evaluating and defining the services that will be like eligible to go within the joint digital services platforms, we have to classify them as strategic, cognitive, or operational. Then standardization and governance. We have to standardize all of the services that will go through the joint digital services platform. We can deploy the quality standards for the joint digital services, accessibility of people of determination, while applying governance policies related to Dubai Model Center 360 policy, Dubai Data Law, Dubai Digital Strategy, and international standards. Also, the technology is a key driver to deploy a proper model. We have to use AI and blockchain to advance the customer journey and to deliver a proper customized services for all Dubai customer. Also, the service management will allow the service provider to use certain tools to match customer expectation, such as customer analytics, data management, AI, and business intelligence. Also, for the digital enablement, we could use, which is different from technology, we could use certain digital tools to utilize and improve the customer experience, such as the digital wallet and the digital ID. The second practice is the governmental platforms. Actually, we've been advised not to use local best practices with the project, but we could not resist to acquire Dubai Airport's community app and Zadi platform from the Dubai Custom. Those two experiences showed us how big operation could be transformed into joint digital services platform to develop collaboration opportunities, not only for industrial or supplied food chain sectors, but all of the government processes and huge operation. So what they have been doing, they automated the processes by using advanced technologies such as RPA, AI, and OCR. They defined parameters of the customer journey to understand the current requirement and challenges. They also evaluated customer experience and identified challenges related to that. They decreased multiple steps and reduced the workflow time. So the resource required to deploy such frameworks is process revision, adopting artificial intelligence, and also conducting SLAs between service providers to ensure compliance. The expected results from deploying this practice will be going to be like a single point of interaction with each organization, integrated the processes and procedures for clearance, increase sharing of standardized information, and reduce the information gathered by different organizations. It will become like a single source of information for customers and for the service providers. It will enable faster clearance time and provide multidimensional visibility on the end-to-end supply chain and increase the revenues. The third practice is a digital identity. I know we have UAE Pass, but this practice suggests that all unified application should use the user, should use like a one unified integrated digital identity that will allow all systems to be integrated in one place. The resource required to apply this digital identity is software engineers, IT security, finance managers, smart application designers, decision makers, SLA executives, project manager, and outsourcing IT company, state of security representative, and bank operators. The expected result from this practice is like unified seamless experience for the user to access all facilities in the country, secure and well-maintained data through one platform, simplify the process for all services, which will ease the customer journey and government data, possibility of having the private sector on board with the unified platform, and avoiding any fraud attempt in the future, especially for the banking services and financial application. Also, one of the best practices we found within Korea e-government portal, they have like a main portal that provides documents, issuance, government services, and policy information by each ministry for public use. The resource required to deploy such a portal is low cost and high quality services for customized citizen happiness, because sometimes we can offer like an online services or joint digital services, but it's comparative to the traditional one, it's like highly costed. Secondly, enhance more efficient and effective access to public information and services, and customize citizen services through using new technologies. Also, a continuous administrative reforms should be like applied to remove an overlap function and process of information. So this will decrease the duplication of processes between governmental entities Expected results from this practice: provide proactive and automated services and service provision without the physical presence for the customer. Lastly, but it is not like the last best practices, but the last best practices will be sharing today because of the time constraint. It is the Joint Digital Services Evaluation Framework. So one of the issues was we don't have an assessment tool to assess all services that are provided by Joint Digital Services platforms. So the European Commission, they issued a matrix and a framework to assess all joint services between EU governments. But we've taken like two main categories to apply it within the government of Dubai, which is data and digital. So with the field of data, because we have a lot of data exchange and a lot of data communication between service providers and between the platform and the customer. So open data maturity has to be evaluated. And national guidelines to assess data providers in their publication processes has to be measured. Number of open data sets published. Existence of policies supporting the reuse of public sector information within public administration by the private sector. So the customer will not be, they will not have to resubmit their documents again and again. Reuse of open data in decision making. Extents to which data is easily transferable between systems and application. And for the digital assessment, an active consideration of the use of open source software when developing new IT solution. Yani when like Dubai Digital Authority or any authorized entity will develop the platform, they have to make it open to allow their stakeholders and other service providers like to revisit or to advance or to like re-engineer the process itself. Existence of collaborative platforms in each entity that facilitate the reuse, sharing, and deployment of IT solutions. For example, open source software, semantic asset. Compliance with Dubai Digital Accessibility Standards and all standards related to like accessibility and quality. Online availability. Existence of defined processes that will be, eligible to go with the joint digital services. And application of privacy and security principles according to Dubai cybersecurity strategy. We were like able to achieve quick wins with our stakeholders. We've developed like a prototype joint digital services model to assist the joint digital services within the government of Dubai. An evaluation matrix of the joint digital services, and Dubai Digital Authority, they were able like to develop a container approach within Dubai Now application. They allow the service providers to have like an access for the application to like to approve or revisit some of their services within the application. Main KPIs were established in line with UAE Digital Strategy 2025, Dubai Digital Authority, and Dubai Model Center Pillar, and a 360 policy. Some of actions were identified to close gaps for the main project 6 pillars. And also we identified the ease and the impact of all best practices or improvement ideas acquired on the project outcome and the priority for implementation and deploy stage. The lesson learned from this project, it was actually critical to us because the 10 of the team members, we were not specialized within the joint digital services. So we explored the project from the scratch. But it was really like a huge learning experience for us, and we were able to explore and to identify the pain points that customers go through every day because these services cannot be like afford in one place, or we have to download 10 or 12 or 13 applications to finish from like, or to accomplish, let's say, a one service that is shared between different entities. And there's like a huge support, not only from DGEP or the project sponsor, even from stakeholders, because when we presented these best practices with Dubai Digital Authority and Dubai Model Center, they encouraged us, and they are, because they are facing same challenges, you know. The service are not in one place. We have multiple stakeholders, we have multiple service providers. So they advise the team to prioritize best practices, and they approved it. They tell me, هاجر اعطينا البست براكتس ونحن الحين بنزلها او نحن الحين بنطبقها. We will deploy it right now. So this was like يعني we discovered and we felt that really the government of Dubai are very agile, and they are open for change and open for you know, any further and big growth within the joint digital services framework and initiatives with the government of Dubai. So to conclude this project, the current Dubai joint digital services practices are superior, يعني from my point of view, but will require some implementation of suggested practices to make Dubai government a role model in this field. So the next step with this project is Dubai Model Center and Dubai Digital Authority feedback, and then inshallah we will review the joint digital services with all Dubai government and private sectors. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hajar. Thank you. I'm so delighted that you have enjoyed the experience in Dubai for Best Practices program. It has been a really wonderful and a thrilling journey, honestly. And now I would like to open the floor for the audience to have the questions. So I have the first questions. What are the challenges that could face the joint digital services model and your plans to convert them to opportunities?
Yes, the first challenge will be, as I mentioned, we have more than one owner for the service. So we have multiple service providers. So an initiative or a project that could help us overcome this challenge is forming a committee from each governmental entities and private sector, if the service will include the private sector. So they have to hire a champion and a team, strategic, technical, and operational, to overcome and to help like escalate the joint digital services model.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then going to the prototype regarding the joint digital services model, you have mentioned that it has several pillars like the technology, the service integration, the digital enablement. What would be your suggestion regarding the key performance indicators, what it will be addressing?
Actually, from the team point of view, now the challenge are not associated with the technology because we already have a platforms, a unified platforms, and unified channels, policies and strategies related to AI and blockchain and all of the advanced technologies. So what we are missing, the collaboration for the service managers. So now we have the government service providers. We have to assess not the platform itself. We have to assess the service and the service providers. Now, the issue, most of the governmental entities, they are not willing to give up their services, not because they own the service itself, but they are afraid some of their strategic KPIs will drop because there is some KPIs measured by the Dubai Digital Authority and the Executive Council, the digital adoption of the website or of the application. So let's say an X governmental entities will give up this service to the joint platform or the unified channel, they will face a drop for their strategic KPI. So one of the measures that we suggested with Dubai Model Center and Dubai Digital Authority to compromise between both. We don't have to delete one. The adoption of the unified channels should not like affect the adoption of the internal channel of the governmental entities. So the shared services should be not considered while like measuring the adoption of the services online.
Okay, that's quite an important issue, honestly, to be addressed. And the next question, is there any plan to have a single window for all government entities on board?
Yeah, actually, there is, it's not a plan, it's a strategy to unify all channels. Currently, we have now multiple unified channels. Some of them like related, we have Dubai Now, and even with Dubai Now, there is like a new package called Ana Emirati for all UAE citizens. We have Invest in Dubai for all matters related to like business. And now there is like a strategy to collaborate all of these services under one umbrella. It should not be like, we are not recommending like to abandon all of the systems and all of the projects and all of the platforms, but we are encouraging to unify the systems because we don't want to duplicate, efforts and duplicate cost and duplicate time between Executive Council, Dubai Digital Authority and governmental entities, because we have also shared services projects going on as silo projects within government entities itself. That is like an application or a smart integration. So we have to take into consideration all of these silo projects going on with the government and then collaborate to unify all of the efforts.
So the collaboration is the key, honestly, to this, to all these challenges that we have.
Exactly.
Going to the next question, which project management approach have your team followed, the waterfall or agile? How did you apply the agility practices or tools, and can you give examples?
Yeah. Talking about agility will take like
yes.
all of my colleagues' time, but it's not because we actually deployed the trade methodology within our project, and it was agile. We did not go phase by phase. Yani we did not basically only assign the project, then we review it, then we acquire the best practices, then we deploy the best practices, and after that we evaluate it. No, yani all of the stages we are taking in parallel, because while we are reviewing the best practices, we acquire some of the local best practices. So when we start with Dubai Customs and Dubai airports, we find amazing best practices within their teams or within their departments. So we've taken these practices and we try to like recommend some of it to be deployed in a governmental level. And also while we are acquiring some of the best practices, we edited our term of reference. We edited our like scope. We validated our aim. So it was like we applied an agile methodology while carrying on the trade.
That's quite, I'm sure about it. There was a long-term sustainable changes all the way to improve the results. And then going to the best practice regarding the government data, you mentioned the Korea eGov portal. So if we're going to implement it in Dubai, what will be the suggested requirement and the expected benefits after implementation?
Yeah, the requirement is to like, we've downloaded the Korean e-governmental portal and application. All of their, federal and local services were in the platform. I know here is, different because we have different legislations, different services between federal and local, but we could benefit from the collaboration, and we could benefit from how services are categorized within the platform or the portal itself, and how the accessibility of these services are very simple, are very unique. We have to even the main goal, it's not only like going online with these services or moving these services to unify the platforms, because sometimes you have a complicated service. So moving it online or moving it with the shared platforms is not the answer of the customer expectation or issue. We have to provide and revise and decrease, the steps for this service to meet the user expectation and to deliver a seamless and a very simple services toward the customers.
That's quite interesting and an important pillar, honestly, to be considered, especially in your topic. Thank you so much, Ms. Hajar. That was a quite insightful presentation and the questions. Thank you so much. Right now, I'd like to move to our next speaker. So our next speaker, she is Ms. Sobia Kazmi from Dubai Government Human Resources Department, and she is a team member in building government capabilities for future jobs team. Ms. Sobia, welcome. The floor is yours. We can see the presentation, but no sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sobia Kazmi, and I'll be presenting Building Government Capabilities for Future Jobs on behalf of Dubai Relearn. A little bit about this project. What we were trying to do through this project, we were trying to prepare a future-ready job, a future-ready workforce that is well-equipped to handle and address the challenges offered by future job. Through this project, we look at best practices. We know that challenges that we are having, we are not facing it alone. There are other governments, other organizations who are having the similar challenges. We wanted to go and speak to them and find the best practices. What are they doing and what is helping them? What are the leading practices and what we can bring to Dubai and, adapt them, customize them based on our requirement. We adopted trade methodology for this project consisting of 5 stages. For the stage 1, we went for terms of references, which is mostly about setting the scene. So understanding the project aim, scope, background, what we want to do and how we're going to do about it, who are our stakeholders, and kind of, engaging them early. A little bit about our team. We were consisting of 9 people representing different entities across the Dubai government. The project was led by Iman bin Khatim, who is the CEO of Policies and Program within DGHR. Throughout this journey, one quote of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed guided us through. This quote is about the future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and execute it. Throughout this journey, you would see that we have tried to imagine what the future would be, and then came up with some projects and initiatives that will create our desired future. So what is about future that we are worried about? If we connect the dots, Dubai emerged as a small town in 1960s. It started developing the basic infrastructure in 1990s, and by 2020s, it has become as one of the most resilient and stable economies across the world. We need the success story to continue, and we know that there are challenges in the future that might restrict this growth. What are some of those challenges? These challenges are global, mostly because of digitalization or because of the technology. If you look at it, 65% of today's school children, they don't know which jobs they will end up working with. The rate of automation is high. reskilling needs are immense. And the time to reskill someone is even shorter because the skill span or the life cycle is very small. How this project is going to help us? We'll use this project as a critical input for our workforce planning and especially for our workforce development. We would know what are our priority areas, where are the major gaps, and we will allocate the financial resources and the priority accordingly. The stage 2 was a review stage. This stage is all about research. So we need to know what areas we need to focus for benchmarking. What are our stakeholders' perception? What are our employees' perception? We did multiple activities under this stage, but perhaps one of the most important was creating a fishbone diagram. So the fishbone diagram is essentially used to identify a major goal and what are the causes or what are the important things that we need to consider for that goal. The goal in this case was to find best practice recommendations for building capabilities for future jobs. And the causes or the factors or the elements here were 6 pillars that we identified. These 6 pillars actually provided us a basic framework for research or to look after our best practices. The first pillar is about future drivers. So these are all the trends, the global scenarios. We don't have a direct control over it, but we are hugely impacted by these. Then comes the workforce that we are already having in Dubai government, their education, their skill set, their demographic and social factors, and also the future talent supply. Technology, a huge disruptor and also an enabler at the same time. Governance, all about policies, productivity, laws, legislations, and budget. Workforce architect, what do we mean by workforce architects are people who are responsible for driving other people's career. You call them HR, you call them managers, you call them leaders. They are an important pillar. Then comes the future capability, which is basically our ability to envision future, to understand, create this visibility and act in a proactive manner. All your analytics, foresight, and decision-making support come under this pillar. I think with that, guys would continue the further slides.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Qais.
Perfect. Okay, so the presentation, please. Okay, so armed with the knowledge we got from the fishbone and the focus on the capabilities or building capabilities for the future and the 6 dimensions we need to look at, the first logical step was to do a SWOT analysis and really understand how we are doing. So the first part of it, we looked at internally as a team, as DGHR, and to an extent as a central government entity to know what are we doing right, where are the areas of improvement so we can understand how we can leverage our strengths. At the same time, we wanted to understand where we aspire to go. So we looked externally and we focused on opportunities and threats, obviously predominantly technology, where it presents opportunities for us, but also that speed of change that might be a threat among many others. So obviously that wasn't enough for us to dissect and understand where we're going. We, as a government, both public and the government, even though we fall under one sector, but if you really analyze the different government entities, they span multiple industries. So we really wanted to make sure that the information we get really is enough to cover all of those different industries. So we flagged 10 different industries that are deemed strategic to Dubai government, and they're reflective of the entirety of Dubai government and even the public sector. And that gave us, that was important for us for 3 different dimensions. One, we had a way to validate our fishbone or the 6 areas. Are they comprehensive enough or are we discovering something new? Second, we are going to engage with our stakeholders. So with that knowledge about their industry, we can target our questions a little bit more proactively. And third, as you see on the right side, we found common challenges, even though there are some unique discoveries for each industry, but there were common challenges and themes that we wanted to leverage up to target our benchmark and research. A lot of them are revolving around technology. So next came meeting with our stakeholders, and we identified 25 key stakeholders. We were able to meet with 18 of them, And obviously we group them into 5 different groups depending on the type of entity. Some of them are governing, some of them are regulators. And that also gave us a little bit more insight to cover all of the different roles of the government entities and to be able to leverage that knowledge from them. We didn't restrict it only to meeting with government entities. We wanted also to reach out to the employees. We figured that part of our stakeholders are the actual employees. And here we talk about the managers and leaders within the organization, but as well as non-managerial. And we had a very healthy response rate, and that enabled us to get more insights within the organization on the culture and the practices, but also to kind of look at the contrasts and similarities between what we got from organizations and what we got from employees. So all that boiled down to what we call the gap analysis, obviously a lot of discoveries. And that was very important for us to focus on because our researchers start zooming into key areas. These gap analysis and findings really were diverse. Some of them focused on industries like the education sector, but a lot of them a key common emphasis on what we call the talent or learning ecosystem. So all of those challenges related to learning, related to the infrastructure behind it that require you to develop and identify future jobs. Next. So before we go into the benchmarking areas, it was important for us to monitor the performance of our project, right? Is it achieving what is supposed to be achieving? So obviously, other than the obvious managing the budget, the time, and how we utilize our team of 9 members, it was very insightful to check if our project is really meeting what it's supposed to be as a benchmarking tool for building capability. So the first row you notice was to try to validate, okay, so with the stakeholders and the employees, we managed to hit the numbers clearly and meet our targets. But what's more interesting is the third graph is we asked those stakeholders to validate our fishbone and some of the key findings, and we had a very high response rate and agreement rate from the stakeholders and the employees. Similarly, when we look at the benchmarking partners, we were not extremely optimistic to engage more than 5 because of the time limit, but things worked out quite well for our project and we were able to engage 16 of them. Obviously, if you look at the next one, which is new intervention, that obviously had an impact. It enriched our project very well and we came up with 13 initiatives. The next stage is the acquire stage. And here, this is where we capture a lot of the best practices from benchmark. And we were able to shortlist 25 and meet 16 of them. And these stakeholders really ranged in geography from North America, like Canada and the US, Europe, even locally in UAE, Asia, and Australia. Where a government entity eightfold, and then we have OECD, Skill India. It enriched that, given all of those different perspectives and different dimensions, enrich our project tremendously. So we captured over 50 ideas. The next question would be, how are we going to select from those 52 ideas and based on what? So we came up with a criteria to be able to do that. The first 2 obvious were what kind of an impact these initiatives could have and the ease of implementation. But that wasn't enough for us. We had some leverage as a Dubai government DGHR. A lot of these projects or initiatives probably would be carried by DGHR. So we really wanted to sense the urgency these initiatives can fit into the Dubai government. And as well, we want to see how much control does Dubai government, DGHR has on those. So some of them fall within the Dubai government scope. And it was important for us. And obviously, we kept an eye on Emiratization for this project. I will showcase to you some of the findings and the initiatives we had. Okay, so we can see. We just upload the graph. Perfect. So one of the things we wanted to make sure that we cover is, if you remember the 6 pillars, we wanted to make sure, are these ideas cover all of the 6 pillars? We want it to be more comprehensive. But at the same time, instead of just naturally looking at the top right, the ones that scored high on implementation, ease of compact, we wanted to make sure that part of our selection focuses on the variety of the pillars, as well as the, other than easy entry, the quick wins. We didn't want just long-term initiative. We were conscious that we needed to cover the entire spectrum. We also looked at the level of control Dubai government, DGHR has. So obviously these were very easy for us to plug into our existing work. And we were able to plug those projects directly into live projects and shape them and get what we call quick wins, even though they're longer in nature, but get them actioned right away. Next.
I think if you can notice that we had so many ideas, we came up with almost 52 ideas. If we go and talk about every single idea, it will be very difficult. What we thought of is that we create some future stories, a vision board, to show you the cumulative effect of these ideas that we are proposing, that how our life would be different if these ideas were implemented. My first story, this is a story from future, so please bear with me. The first story is from 2030. I want you to meet Saif, who is a UAE national working as an HR manager in one of the Dubai government entity. The year is 2030 and AI 4.0 has been just launched. As expected, the technology is extremely productive and very effective, but like all other technologies, it's extremely disruptive. What it meant is that Saif needs to fill 700 new roles within 18 months. Also, he has about 800 staff that is redundant. That also represents 30% of his workforce. He needs to do something right now to cater both of the needs. How does he do that? He has a skill intelligence platform, which was implemented a few years back. A skill intelligence platform is basically a talent platform where you put your employees' detail, not only in terms of who they are, but also what do they want to learn, what they have already learned, what kind of skills they have, and what kind of interest they have in learning. When he puts the details of the old role and the new role in the system, what he finds out that 200 of the redundant staff have a direct match for the new roles. And another 300, they don't have a direct match, but in about 6 months' time, they can be upskilled. This is an important part of skill intelligence system because it does not only tell you what experience or skills that your employees have, but also what they can learn. So for example, if there is a statistician and tomorrow you don't need another statistician because your systems are very advanced, it tells you that the skill set that he already has is very useful to develop him into another profession. For example, data scientists, or maybe actuaries, or maybe some other, professions where these skills are largely valued. So he knows that he can upskill 300 of them within 6 months' time through Learning Experience Platform. Learning Experience Platform has been recently implemented in year 2030 by DGHR, and it's a state-of-art learning system, all online, and can help upskilling people. He's still short of 200 people, but he knows that one of the universities offering a program, an undergraduate degree, which is very close to his requirements. So he signs up an apprenticeship program for that. What is an apprenticeship program? Through an apprenticeship program, he promises to pay the final year fee for all 200 students and guarantee them a job in his entity on the condition that they will be serving the entity for another 3 years. He knows that this role is going to grow in the future and he needs to secure the talent supply for future. So what he does, he goes to 4 other universities and signs up with them a priority scholarship to have people in this particular discipline. So he knows that for next 4 or 5 years, he's secured. He still has to deal with the other people who are still redundant and have not been accommodated. 150 of these people can be actually moved into other government departments through the intergovernmental career paths. So the idea of career path is that you move people within the entity, but through this unique tool or solution, what you can do is that you can move talent from one government entity to another entity based on the roles and skill match and profile. Another 100 can be moved into private sector through sectoral councils. These councils work like a collaboration network between public sector and private sector and move talent from public to private and from private to public sector based on the skill set, which is promotes a very healthy talent mobility across sectors. He's still left with 50. What he's going to do with them, he's going to enroll them on the talent marketplace. Talent Marketplace is actually a virtual job board where different entities from both government and private sectors put their needs of different assignments. These assignments don't need full-time employees, but they do pay for all them, and usually better than the full-time jobs. And here, those we call part-timers or gig workers can actually work and accomplish different projects. So he knows that he had a huge problem, but because of all the ideas and the best practices that we are recommending now, and hopefully will be in action, he's able to handle the situation. The next story is from 2033. I want you to meet Mariam. Mariam is a 25-year-old UAE national. She's looking at some old slides and looks like that she's probably looking at our presentation and thinking of the challenges that people had in 2022. But when he thinks of her life and her career trajectory, she cannot help smiling because it was very different. In 2026, when Mariam was a skills tool in grade 12, she was introduced to a tool called Career Navigator. This was a metaverse-based tool where every student could go and virtually interact with the profession of their choice. It has such a profound impact on her that instead of becoming a doctor, she decided to become a space agriculturist, which was obviously a very new profession by then. She joined a college in 2028 through a co-op degree. Through a co-op program, what she has done that every 4 months she studied in the college and every other 4 months she worked in the industry, thanks for the strong collaboration between industry and academia. What that means that in 2032, when she graduated, she had a 5-year degree and 2 years of experience. Because of that, she was accommodated in Dubai Space Program, which is a flagship program in Dubai in space domain. Dubai Space Program is known for its employee development model, which is common across Dubai government. They use a model called 4E's, consisting of education, exposure, experience, and environment. What it means is that different elements of this model are based and customized on the particular experience that the person wants to have. For senior people, they might require more of exposure. For junior people, they might require more education. Based on their career aspirations, the tool is customized. Mariam knows she's in safe hands. Whether it comes to a new career or whether thriving in the same career, she has all the tools in place. The third story is from is by Sarah. Sarah has been born to the refugee parents when her own hometown was at war. She spent her early life in Germany and completed her first degree in pharmacy over there. In 2023, she decided to come to Dubai because UAE government has announced a huge initiative, which was guaranteeing the health insurance as well as some partial research scholarships for those who were interested, mainly to attract creative and innovative gig workers. So she came here and she continued her research and fellowship activities. Today is a big day for her. 2034, she came up with a medicine for treating cancer, which is 70% more effective than the previous treatments available. This is a huge leap, not only for her and for cancer patients, but also for UAE, who is definitely going to go up in the UAE Innovation Index because of this particular innovation. So this is the part of what we aspire or what we imagine to bring in here. Now comes in how we can bring these stories into realities, how we can bring a
of time. Sorry, Ms. Sobia.
Sorry, I'll just, it's okay. I can just take the questions if anybody has. These are some of the projects that are on the screen. This is the last slide anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sobia and Mr. Qais for the insightful presentation in a very vital pillar, actually, the human resources and building capabilities, and how do you really tackle the importance of upskilling and reskilling our workforce, especially in Dubai. Going to the first question. Regarding the vision board, the 2030-2032, the first vision board, it shows a very beautiful and colorful dream. Are the human resources department or professionals at Dubai government organizations ready for the coming changes, considering the continuously shocking volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity situation?
Thank you so much, Dr. Marwa. I think there are two parts of this question. So first part is, are the HR themselves, are they ready for it? We have, through this projects, we came up with two type of projects. One is the long-term projects and the others are quick win. The quick wins, we have introduced a lot of projects that are actually to develop the HR skill set. They, as you talk about VUCA, the volatile and ambiguous and uncertain environment, they need to go into it. They need to be more adaptive and more proactive in terms of design thinking, which tells them and that adaptability is important, and they get their hands on that. So we have introduced some of the projects that are about that. Then some of the tools that you see here, for example, the skin intelligence system, we are going to build that right after this project. This project has already been approved, and we have started working on that. So we are trying to develop both the HR infrastructure and the HR people capability. We need to target both of them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite important actually to highlight it and tackle it. Going to the second question regarding the collaboration, especially between the academia and the marketplace, how can this collaboration leverage the future jobs, especially in Dubai? And what are the best methods to have a very fruitful collaboration?
I think this is one interesting that we need to mention here is that when we started this project, we were not taking education as a huge priority. But as we started digging it, what we realized that education is actually an extremely important pillar. If we talk about the future talent supply and future jobs, we have gaps in the education sector. And without completing that, without bridging that, we won't be able to address the needs. So what we have done, I mean, obviously there are multiple ways. If you look at Canada, one of the benchmarking partners that we had was Waterloo University. They have a very strong network with the education and, between education and the industry. And that's why they're able to offer those co-op programs. They are more long-term. If you ask about DGHR, obviously our scope is a little bit limited in there, that we don't directly deal with education, but we do have partner engagements that we can work with. And, as an influencer, what we can do, we can make a feedback loop system where we keep telling and informing the industry that this is what, informing the education sector, that this is what we require from industry in terms of work profile. And also we don't rely on a 4-year degree or the long-term programs only. We actually come up with more innovative micro credentials, which fill in the gap right there and right now, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. That's
some of the very quick comment.
Mm-hmm. Please go ahead, guys.
So we had a few initiatives related to the education side, right? They had some commonality between them. Is what kind of feedback do you want from the organizations, whether private or public sector, that comments on academia they can leverage from? Are the programs good enough for the workforce? Are there skills that the students would require to be plugged in? For instance, we'll call it employability skills. So it gives a lot of those initiatives would create that loop or link between the government, the organizations, and the education system. So it creates that loop and gives feedback and creates alignment. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally right. Totally right. I totally agree with you. Going to the next question, the safety net for the gig workers. You really highlight a really important part in the human resources and economy, and it's a future trend, the gig economy. How can you assure having a safety net for gig workers? What are your recommendations and the best practices in that part?
Right. So Dr. Marwa, if you know that gig worker, we used to call them alternate workforce. Now the alternate workforce is mainstream. This is the first year in the US where the gig workers or the part-time workers are actually the same or somehow outnumber the full-time employees. So we know that this is the trend. We need to look at what the gig workers want and where they are suffering, what they want, why they opt for gig working, or why they opt for not opting for the full-time work is because of the flexibility that comes, the ability to learn, the flexibility. But what they don't want is, for example, a situation like COVID, where these people were left out in cold. They didn't have a health insurance. They didn't have the regular employee benefits. Even today, when we talk about all the employee benefits, for example, the ability to train, the health insurance, the severance and all of that, that is all traditionally a part of the full-time work. But if we want to deploy these gig workers and we want to get the best talent to be mobilized and utilized, we need to give them something extra. Dubai has this opportunity. It's already a very attractive place. If we offer, for example, the facilitation in visa, the regulatory environment, maybe some subsidized or a universal health scheme for all of them, so they cover at least for the major health emergencies, and some other things that other countries are not providing. This will become even more attractive for people like researchers, scientists, musicians, creative artists. So it will truly become a city of design, bringing things in which others are not. So I think those are the things that we can work around.
That's quite amazing and interesting. And unfortunately, we reached the end of this questions for your presentation. Thank you so much, Ms. Sobi and Mr. Qais, for your informative presentation. And now I would like to go to the last but not least presenter, his First Lieutenant Engineer Mohammed Zainal from Dubai Police. And he is a team member in behavioral sciences for government effectiveness. Mr. Engineer Mohammed, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just going to share my slides. Beginning. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. The sound and we can see the presentation.
Perfect. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished and esteemed guests. My name is Mohammed Zainal, and I am a member of the Behavioral Science for Government Effectiveness team. I'm extremely honored today to be presenting our journey and findings in the Dubai for Best Practices initiatives to my colleagues in the government of Dubai. Our agenda for today includes expounding our insights and analysis on the trade methodology defined as the terms of reference stage, review, acquire stage, deploy and evaluate, and then we'll end the presentations with the lessons learned and future plans. Our team, led by Colonel Pilot Maher Al-Marri, Head of Operations Section in Dubai Police Air Wing, consists of 8 members with diverse knowledge within their respective industries and experience in the process of benchmarking. This distinct wealth of background knowledge and team structure contributed to the success of the project, as each member was assigned with a certain role within the trade methodology. In the terms of reference stage, the team identified the project charter, in which the aim, scope, objectives, risk, and stakeholder analysis of the project were carefully determined and analyzed. Furthermore, an extensive communications plan was developed to govern the manner of communications amongst team members as well as various stakeholders. But before we delve into the subject at hand, you might be asking yourself and wondering what even behavioral sciences mean. Behavioral science, in simple terms, is described as a study of human behavior using systematic experimentation and observation. So behavioral sciences study when and why individuals engage in a specific behavior by experimentally examining the impact of factors such as conscious thoughts, motivation, social influences, the context, and habits. And in order to understand the full complexity of human behavior, some behavioral sciences, they synthesize theories, concepts, and methodologies across some of these disciplines that include anthropology, behavioral economics, cognitive psychology, consumer behavior, social psychology, and sociology. Due to the novelty of this topic in applications and execution on a global level, our aim involved setting the knowledge foundations that took the form of awareness and transfer of knowledge to allow and assist the government of Dubai in initiating the utilization of the science across government entities to deliver user social-centric strategies, policies, programs, and services. So in terms of awareness, we aim to increase the level of awareness to 80% amongst Dubai government entities on this topic, on the science. In terms of transfer of knowledge, we aim to share our best practices and research findings of behavioral sciences, key elements to increase knowledge by 40% amongst Dubai government entities. As an outcome, we hope the above aids in the application of behavioral sciences in service design and deliver from 9.6% to at least 50% by 2025 amongst the Dubai government entities. This project, in terms of scope, explores best practices in understanding and predicting societal behavior and how this information can be used to deliver comprehensive strategies, effective policies, programs, and cutting-edge or leading-edge government services that results in raising the government effectiveness to best serve the ever-changing needs and requirements of society. So the best practices that I'll be mentioning during or throughout this presentations are confined and focus on deriving the foundations of behavioral science, whether in the form of framework, methodology, model, or guidelines for the inception of applied behavioral science in the government of Dubai. And we've divided it into behavioral strategy, behavioral insights, behavioral design, and piloting. Since our project involves the interests and directly impacts all Dubai government entities, we have defined our stakeholders based on sectors instead of identifying the government entity itself. So we have the urban planning and infrastructure sector, security and justice, health and safety, economic development, aviation, government center, education, social development, and media. And of course, we've benefited from one federal entity, which is the Ministry of Possibilities, in which they shared a best practice that they've implemented. Some of the benefits of behavioral science implementation, there are many, but some of them were, if implemented within the Dubai government, would cause to increase of Dubai's global competitiveness in terms of service accessibility, increase the GDP of Dubai by improving the services provided to customers, establishment of a behavioral sciences unit in the Dubai's Executive Council, and increase satisfaction of all customers with Dubai government services. The next stage, which is the review stage, we analyzed the current state and identified the gaps by performing a situational analysis to assess and understand the current status in terms of awareness and knowledge, as well as the utilization of behavioral sciences, such as practices, methodology, or tools, or even projects, in order to define the areas of focus for our project. We've also performed a gap analysis to present the current state and define a best practice searches and gaps to close in order to reach the desired state for the areas of improvement and focus identified. And last, we identified performance measures in order to basically check if we are on the right track or not to determine the success of our project. So after performing the SWOT analysis, we developed this fishbone diagram based on SWOT analysis, survey results, virtual meetings, and initial desktop research. We had two surveys that were sent to different entities within the government of Dubai. One survey that was very general, that was targeted towards all government employees, and the other survey focused on subject matter experts within each of these entities, and we've received response from both surveys. We've received more than 20 results that we basically analyzed and placed in the fishbone diagram. So based on this fishbone diagram, we identified the areas of focus to be human capital, external factors, technology, customer, process, and logistics. In terms of the acquire stage, what we've done is that we've developed our criteria for desktop research, as well as our criteria for the partners that we'll select in order to conduct a field visit or perform a virtual meeting with. So for the best practice search criteria, we've used the form provided by the trade spreadsheet to search questions These search questions were developed by studying and analyzing the current state and describing the desired state. So the desired state was defined based on the initial research and all the situation analysis results within this topic of behavioral science. Once the team had a grasp of behavioral science topic, since most of us were not exposed when we started this project on this science, we had to take some time to understand what this topic is about. And once we had a full grasp on it, we basically tried to come up with the right questions in order to close the gap between the current and the ideal state. So this became the search questions for the desktop research for the pillars identified in the fishbone diagram, as you can see on the slide. So as an example, so when we look at, for example, technology, the questions that, for example, fell on behavioral science integration with AI would be, how can behavioral science be integrated with artificial intelligence? Which Gulf cities, regions, countries have made dramatic improvements in integrating behavioral science into AI projects? If we look at, for example, in the technology pillar under behavioral science data analysis, some of the questions to close the gap would be how to develop behavioral science data analytics systems for government decision making in AI and big data projects. How can behavioral science be used as a critical tool to analyze data for improved customer satisfaction and increased revenues? These were how the questions were developed for our best practice desktop research. In terms of our partner selection criteria, we've come up with 12 criteria in order to benchmark with the potential potential benchmarking partners. Initially, 55 potential benchmarking partners were identified, including the BPIR research team's input. However, based on the responses from the situation analysis and surveys to gauge the knowledge of the Dubai or the government of Dubai entities in behavioral sciences, most of our best practices were in the form of desktop research. So by utilizing extensive tools to collect best practices, we managed to record a total of 52 best practices. We have 5 best practices in the pillar of human capital, 5 best practices in the pillar of technology, 7 in the pillar of customer, 5 in the pillar of logistics, and another 5 in process and 5 in external factors. So we have also conducted 7 virtual meetings with entities as part of our understanding the current situation, as well as extracting best practices from them. We've also conducted an exclusive workshop with Fatima Al-Quaik from Strategy, and it was a workshop that was conducted for our team members to understand and further understand the topic of behavioral science. It was focused on the history of behavioral science, the countries that utilize the science, and how certain frameworks work and why some of them don't work. And then some exercises were given in the workshop. And we also had a site visit to the World Health Organization by your moderator, as you can see from the picture. And within this field visit, the topic of behavioral sciences was also discussed on how the World Health Organization uses such science to develop a program, design program, and conduct research. So by conducting a best practice selection matrix, we analyzed 2 main factors when it comes to choosing the quick wins for the best practices to pursue. We analyzed the ease of implementation and the impact if implemented. And we identified 17 quick wins as best practices, with the remainder as long-term best practices for implementation. Due to the brevity of this session, I'll present the main 6 practices in the next slides. So the first practice that we found was the Smart AI Coaching. It's a system that combines multiple sources of data to identify specific strength and weakness in an employee's performance, as well as deliver nudges to supervisors to encourage them to coach employees on the right skills at the right time. So what we've realized is that companies are merging behavioral science findings with cutting-edge AI technologies to provide their employees with a new type of personalized coaching experience. These new smart AI coaching systems use several data sources to pinpoint specific strengths and shortcomings in an employee's performance. So with clever, purposeful repetition, this information they use this information to choose timed context-specific nudges given via employees' either desktop, computer, or even handheld device. These nudges, they can be offered in various ways, including as part of a regular organized program, on-demand service, or even real-time as employees complete their responsibilities. They can also address various issues such as employee health and wellness, customer service, and operational effectiveness. This practice was conducted in several countries, such as Hong Kong, the United States, and the UK. And in the companies in which this practice was performed, you had an increase in employee productivity by at least 8%. You had a reduction of cost by 5%, and you had a 20% lower rework rate due to the implementation of this best practice. And of course, the stakeholders involved to implement this best practice would include the Dubai Government Human Resource Department, the Digital Dubai, all HR departments of the various government entities that we have, the private sector that are unique in terms of artificial intelligence and big data. And last but not least, you would require behavioral science experts. The second best practice is the hybrid behavioral science unit. So in a report published by the World Bank, United Nations, the institutional setups of behavioral science in government have been divided into three main categories. We have the centralized setup, we have a decentralized setup, and then we have the networked and hybrid setup. What we propose for the government of Dubai is to use the hybrid setup. And we have two main countries that use this model. We have number one, the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, the government adopted a networked model or a hybrid model whereby following a conference for all ministers and heads of departments on this topic, it was decided that each ministry would form its own behavioral insights team with the Ministry of Economic Affairs playing the role of common secretary. So the Behavioral Insights Network Netherlands, which is BIN-NL, the acronym for it, is a collaboration between all ministries for the application of behavioral science knowledge within central government. This entity stimulates, facilitates knowledge sharing, knowledge building, and cooperation in the field of behavior. It also plays a supporting and driving role in the application of behavioral knowledge to policy, implementation, supervision, and communication. And the second country in which this best practice was performed in was the United Kingdom. The Behavioral Insights team in the UK, BIT, has evolved into a decentralized model following the success of this unit, with departments across UK government coordinating their own behavioral insights functions and projects. The stakeholders involved for this best practice would be the Dubai Executive Council as well as the different government entities. And why we also propose this hybrid model is following the success story of the excellence, the government excellence models. They followed the same pattern initially where it was centralized and then it was decentralized among the different government entities. And now you have an award that is given to different government entities in terms of who excels and who does not. The third best practice that I want to present is a model. This model was designed by Matt Wallert, a behavioral scientist and author of Start at the End. This model injects behavioral insights into intervention design process by prioritizing the desired outcome in a behavioral strategy as a foundation. The model analyzes qualitative and quantitative behavioral insights that can serve the strategic goals. It is essential to periodically evaluate the impact of the designed interventions as well as modify the design of the intervention. So this model is very helpful when it comes to the execution of projects. So if you have an outcome that you desire from your audience, you would set that outcome as a strategy. You would observe and acquire insights. And based on this insight, you would design your process or your service and then evaluate the impact of the designed service. The next best practice is using insights for customer-centric policies and programs. So this was acquired from a 12-page study titled Consumer Predictive Analytics Using Artificial Intelligence. It was published by Singapore Economic Review. It focused on how artificial intelligence can be utilized to identify a target audience, and it focuses on the marketing context and presents a structured overview of how AI can correctly identify potential customers despite their varied actions. So what we suggest here is to adapt this marketing approach to behavioral science. And one thing noteworthy to mention is that Amazon, Apple, Google, and Facebook, they've all implemented the same sort of strategy where AI is used in order to come up with customer-centric or human-centric policies and programs. They, of course, utilized big data due to the connectivity, since we are now connected to a digital world, to acquire that data and create such policies. So we're suggesting to use this policy when it comes to government, especially since the government of Dubai is in the forefront of digitization. And with digitization, you can capture data that can then be insights for you to create different policies. And of course, this is in alignment with the Service 360 policy, the Dubai Metaverse strategy, the Dubai Data strategy, as well as the blockchain and Internet of Things strategy. And we have also another best practice that utilizes AI. So governments worldwide are beginning to recognize the value of behavioral insights. Many countries, including the United Kingdom, the United States, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, embrace behavioral science-based reforms to improve their programs and services. So public services were made easier and more convenient due to the help of digitization. And the idea here is basically to use AI to look at the customer journey, and through AI, identify and tackle the pain points that occur in the customer journey in order to basically fix that pain point and make the customer happy in that specific action. So the stakeholders involved here is the Executive Council of Dubai, Digital Dubai, all government service entities, the public sector, as well as behavioral science expert. We also have another framework, which is the 5-step behavioral insights framework. This approach will help Dubai government decision makers learn how to systematically identify challenges and design appropriate interventions to overcome these challenges. This framework can be used in the behavioral science unit to catalyze the process of injecting behavioral insights in new interventions. And one very interesting best practice I wanted to mention here is how do you increase public awareness through cartoons. We've seen this best practice implemented in Italy, France, China, and Denmark, where cartoons were created, and we can create cartoons from the Emirati heritage and legacy. And these cartoons can basically create the right behavior interventions for the audience and society. And in our deploy stage, we basically managed to deploy a behavioral science in government webinar. We had 31 entities attending, and 500 participants benefited from this workshop. We had a satisfaction rate of 94%. And the future roadmap, these are all our suggestions, is to have the DGEP establish a behavioral science unit, to have the behavioral science become an element that is measured in the government excellence program, keep on increasing the awareness on this topic, and utilize us who went through this experience to disseminate knowledge amongst different government entities. And with that, I conclude this presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to accept them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed, for the interesting presentation. You have tackled really very new and quite exceptional topic. And I would like to open the floor for our audience for their questions. So going to the first question, you have mentioned the first practice to adopt the hybrid behavioral science unit. The question is, what are the differences between the types of the units, the centralized and decentralized and the hybrid, and why are you recommending to use the hybrid type?
So in terms of the difference is it's all hierarchy difference. So it's a structural setup. We're recommending that the governance project of whether you want to measure the impact of a certain behavioral science project or process within your entity, be a mixture of both, because you have the central government, which is the Dubai Executive Council. They are not the subject matter experts when it comes to implementing behavioral science within a certain field or industry or sector. So you would have them oversee the progress of the subject matter experts within each entity, and the subject matter experts, if equipped with the behavioral science foundations and the right tools, frameworks, and methodologies, they can become the execution part. So we're recommending both models because you are able to get the best of both worlds. And in terms of effectiveness, and because we've seen how the excellence program has been a success, we wanted to adopt the same kind of line of thinking, in which the excellence model was centralized, and then it basically fell into having the different government entities. It became departments and government entities to lead the idea of quality management and whatnot. And now we have awards for them. So we're thinking along the same kind of line of thought.
Yes, building the foundation and training our workforce in order to evolve and leverage. Going to the next question, regarding the multi-stage model in the UNITS process, there are the 4 stages. What are the value added from implementing that process into our unit?
So the value added from the process or the model that was suggested is that if you want to change the behavior of your target audience, you need to follow a certain kind of structure. This framework helps you do that, where you're defining a strategy. And then once you design a strategy and you basically collect the right insights, you can best design your service. So it's one of the frameworks that we found during our desktop research. However, there are many that exist out there. This was the simplest one, and this is why we recommended it to be used. It's a very simple tool in which you have a systematic approach on this is what we want to do in terms of reinforcing positive behavior, and this is the outcome that we want to see. This tool basically helps you, it navigates you through that entire process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's quite interesting. And moving on to your favorite best practice, the cartoon and the consumer awareness.
Yeah.
If we can elaborate, what are the expected benefits? And it was really interesting that you are injecting the culture, the Emirati culture. How can we use and merge the behavioral science, the culture into our services?
So I think so. Maybe one good example of this is Fridge. I think we all see this cartoon in Ramadan. It has played an aspect and role in trying to preserve and maintain the Emirati culture throughout the generations that will come. But what we're suggesting is to use a similar concept that we've seen applied in China and Italy and Denmark, which they've used it actually in trying to achieve the SDG goals. We're suggesting that these cartoons can also be used in your workforce, in your entity, to navigate or better design a service. And I think as Dubai Police, we have a cartoon character called Khalid as well, and maybe other government entities also have that. And this character has a persona of a police officer, and this police officer is characterized by having noble qualities and Emirati qualities that the youth can basically inspire and aspire to have.
Yeah, that's very innovative, honestly. And then going to the next question, it's regarding the customer-centric policies and the programs. We know that this is the trend in order to have personalized services, and we are injecting the AI and big data. How can the behavioral sciences add to that part especially?
So since many governments are now moving into what we call government 5.0, which is becoming digital. And I think I can probably say that the Dubai government entities are in the forefront when it comes to automating and digitizing their different services. With this digitization, what we get as a benefit is data. So this data is centralized within a certain entity, or basically different pools are created within the different government entities. We can look at this data and create policies based on the findings and the analysis that we perform on the input data what we have. So what we're suggesting here is that data is much more I would say accurate than maybe opinion and whatnot. So we want to have a data-driven policy mechanism that the government can use to kind of be more agile and be able to come up with policies as we go. And we basically face a lot of these emerging technologies, because usually the emerging technologies, they exist, but the policies, rules, and laws, they kind of come later. So we want to use this data that we gather from these services that we have and create policies that best suit our society.
Yes, and actually it will even improve the acceptance among the society, I believe.
Yeah.
And going to the last question, unfortunately, is how important to use the behavioral sciences in the marketing sector, especially?
So in the marketing sector, I think it's mature. We have, and I think everyone maybe when they open their phone, they just spoke about something and they see an ad pop up. There's nothing really suspicious about this, but marketing has been very mature in terms of using data and being able to read behavior and derive behavior. What I was suggesting is, or what the team was suggesting, was to have that same approach, but to be applied within government services in order to identify the pain points in the journey of the customer when he comes and basically acquires the service from your entity. So it's a very useful tool when it comes to design thinking. In addition to design thinking, you have data, you draw out the customer journey. In each action, you look at his satisfaction, and then wherever he's dissatisfied, you can easily tackle that. And that can be easily identified if you have a digital service that you can extract data from.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed, for the fruitful presentation. And unfortunately, we came to the end of this interesting session. On behalf of the DGEP team, I would like to thank our amazing speaker for their insightful and informative session. And thank you to our audience for your active participation and engagement. It was quite an honor to be with you today. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.